Good morning and welcome to Hiring for Good podcast. I'm Tanis Morris, and with me as usual is my lovely co-host, Suzanne Hanifin.
Good morning.
Good morning. We're so excited to welcome Christie Dudenhoefer to the podcast this morning. Christie is the head of the Life Science Solutions business inside HP's Specialty Print and Technology Solutions Group. LSS, which is the Life Science Solutions Group, adapts HP inkjet microfluidics technology for ultra-low volume reagent dispensing and single-cell isolation. Now, this is some heavy scientific stuff, Christie, so we're going to need you to break this down for us. But
all right,
I'll try to keep going with this. So, Christie developed a new growth business for HP, resulting in a portfolio of life science research products that address applications in pharma and academic drug discovery, single-cell proteomics, single-cell genomics, and basic research. The cross-functional LSS team supports current commercial products and develops new solutions, collaborating closely with global customers and partners to improve and simplify workflows. When we get into the science stuff, we always kind of depend on you to help translate. But,
of course.
Without going too deep into the science, maybe you can break down some of what that means. I think in general, you have a lot of really important work being done that supports pharma and bio.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Well, we're delighted to have you. I was really excited for this interview because you have a pretty interesting story about, I know you've been at HP for a long time, but do you want to tell us just a little bit about your background and kind of how you got to where you are today?
Yeah, I will do that. And I'm going to talk a little bit more. I'm going to expand on what I do today.
Yes.
And then I'll talk about how I got there.
Okay, perfect.
And so, Tanis, you already described, I run this startup business inside HP. Mm-hmm. And the business operates at the interface of science, like the science our customers want to do, and HP's technology. Mm-hmm. And it's really fun, and it's pretty unique inside HP. And so to have this kind of contained startup business that's being run out of Corvallis, Oregon. Mm-hmm. And so my job, right, as the manager, we all wear a lot of different hats, and I get to work at the interface between R&D and business and the customers and HP. And you'll hear from me as we talk kind of this theme of working at interfaces, which I really like. The work we do on the team spans, supporting customers with current products and developing new products. So kind of, today, developing new products in R&D, tomorrow, mm-hmm. and then working with collaborators across other parts of HP to develop new technology, so the future, and marketing and business development and all the other, kinds of functions. It's a really diverse team, which is something I've worked hard for, and it's highly multidisciplinary, mm-hmm. right? And so that's really fun too. So how did I get here? I'm from Michigan. I went to the University of Michigan, go Blue. And I have a mechanical engineering undergrad. Mm-hmm. My first job out of school was at HP in McMinnville, Oregon, in a small division, the cardiology business unit. And so in McMinnville, back in the day, they were developing cardiology products, right? So electrocardiographs, which we all know, and defibrillators. And my first job, just kind of as it happens, mm-hmm. was a job that was at an interface between an R&D team that was developing a new electrocardiograph and an offshore manufacturing group that was going to be doing the manufacturing and the supply chain. And I think that interface job is probably what has now drawn me to wanting to work at interfaces, right? It's one of those things that just sort of happens, and you look back now after a few decades, and and go, oh, that was maybe a really interesting first job to have. And I wonder if that's what set me up to, be gravitated to the kinds of jobs that I've wanted. So I was in McMinnville for a little while, not too long, and then moved to Corvallis in the inkjet business. And in those early days, like in the early 90s, basically, in Corvallis, there was really rapid growth as the inkjet business was taking off. There's a lot of manufacturing on site for inkjet cartridges and new development. And so I worked in individual contributor roles supporting the core inkjet printing business for about a decade. Again, not always at an interface, but often at an interface between R&D and manufacturing, or between the ink cartridge team in Corvallis and the printer team in Vancouver, Washington. And so I think, it's like it all builds, right? And that's what happened there. And then after about a decade, there's this break that happened, and I had the opportunity from HP to go back to school and get a master's degree. So they offered this fellowship program at the time, and paid for all my school.
Wow.
And I didn't have any work obligations. I was the best fed master's student. I got 3/4 of my engineer's salary. And I moved my family back to Michigan for about a year and a half. And so I went back to University of Michigan and got a master's degree in a very interdisciplinary program. Here's another big science word: macromolecular science and engineering. And so I did that for a year and a half. It was great. Had a ton of fun living in Ann Arbor again with my family. My kids got to see their grandparents a little bit more. And then I finished and we moved back to Corvallis, right? Came back to work. And since then, I've been doing, with either some or all of my time, some form of life science focused new business using the inkjet technology. And so in the early days of that work, it was very exploratory. There was no commercial products. It was all new. There was teams trying all different kinds of things to expand the application space for HP's, technology and products and know-how in microfluidics, really. And we were HP engineers, right? And we didn't know about the different, the applications. So we did a lot of partnering with other companies and with academic collaborators to explore this space. Out of those early days, nothing was commercialized, but they formed the foundation for the business that I run today, right? It was kind of that work that gave us some proofs of concept that we could add value in some of these research workflows. And it gave us some connections and, some skills that were going to be relevant in the space. And so then there was a team of us that became very focused on directly leveraging an inkjet printhead. So a lot of people have inkjet printers maybe on their desk, and the way those work is they make really small drops of ink on the paper to print the page that's in front of me, and we bake. Those are based on silicon chips that we make in Corvallis in a wafer fab. And so the team then became very focused on directly leveraging exactly that, that specific technology. How can we take that and do something in a new application, new market, new application space? And we started working with some pharmaceutical companies. We developed a prototype. We would try it out in front of a customer. We'd refine it. We'd try it out again. They'd be like, no, still not right, you guys, And so over over the course of probably a few years, really. It takes a while sometimes to refine with a ton of customer input, again, because we're not the experts on the workflows, on the application. We ended up developing the commercial products that we have. It required a lot of curiosity, right? We had to want to learn about what are these researchers at Genentech or Merck, or Oregon State, like what are they doing, right? That we can help them with. And a lot of humility, because again, that was wrong. The software was wrong. Everything was wrong, right, at the beginning. And it was also just so fun, right? So we were this small team. We were innovating together and trying to drive really rapid learning cycles. And so I was an individual contributor first on the team, and then I became the manager on the team. And kind of here we are today, right? It's grown since then, and here we are.
Well, and what I find so fascinating is when you look at a big organization like HP, there is a set culture.
Yeah.
And for you and this team to do this entrepreneurial, like you said, trial and error, that's not the traditional culture of HP.
You're right. Yeah.
How did you balance and find, kind of grow that department?
Yeah. That's really insightful, and it's been hard, right? I won't lie. It was really hard. HP, there's a lot of great stuff about HP culture that we can build on, right? HP has a culture of trust and respect for the individual. You go back to Bill and Dave, that's part of the HP way. They were highly collaborative. It's a really great place to work. And there's great people there. So there's that foundation to start from. And yeah, doing new business work inside a big corporation is hard. Funding is sometimes hard. And then that mindset, right, around risk aversion and kind of being slow, right, and that don't really work very well for a startup. And so we were initially operating within a new business creation group. So at least the team we were in had the charter to go and find new things for HP. And I think maybe because we were directly leveraging like the core technology, not trying to do anything different from a technology standpoint. It was the same technology, a different product embodiment in a new market. So that brought the risk way down for HP, which is important, I think. If we had continued on trying to do something really different, I don't think we would have ever made it out to commercialization. And we were just really careful about trying to learn quickly and convince the org that it wasn't going to be a big risk, right? There's no regulatory hurdles. It's not diagnostics or anything like that, right? It's all research. It's another important decision that got made early on. And the volumes, we're going to start small. We're going to go out with a minimally viable product, right? And so it was all about, I think, keeping the risk low for the corporation.
And through this evolution, because you have evolved through your career, talk to us about those valuable lessons. What were the formative learnings that you look back and go, wow, that was amazing?
Yeah. I have a couple that come to mind. And one of them is around feedback. And I had a manager kind of early on-ish. So this was before I was doing new business work. And the manager so HP, of course, does 360 feedback, right? And so he's it's the year end, and he's sharing, feedback with me and my performance review. And there was feedback from kind of a peer, another manager, but that I had been working with. And he had wanted me to do a better job on recording the schedule. And, I think he was envisioning a Microsoft project schedule that you keep track and everything. And it was something that through conversation with my manager was yeah, I could have done all that. So there's truth in it. Sure, I could have done that better. But the thing that my manager did was allow me to question, would that have been impactful? Would it really have made a difference in achieving what we did, right? And so he gave me very explicit permission to do what I wanted with the feedback, right? Kind of a little bit take it or leave it. And so it's, I think we get feedback all the time. We're like, oh, I better make that change. Maybe you should. I think it's important to try to see the truth in it and then decide, you get to decide for yourself. How am I going to act on it?
That's a very respectful and empowering style of leadership from that particular manager.
It was, for sure. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, and it wasn't recent, right? It was a long time ago, and I still remember.
Wow.
So,
did that kind of shape your own leadership style?
I think it must have.
Yeah.
I think it must have. I hope it did.
That's
How's
lovely.
that?
Yeah. No, I mean, it's really interesting to hear. I mean, I think it's really interesting because it sounds like you've not only gotten to kind of grow and create this startup business or this kind of one-off within HP, but you've also gotten to build your team, and when you get to kind of run the shop, you get to set your own cultural tone.
Yeah.
So if you think about your own approach to leadership or organizational management or anything, what are your own personal values that kind of inform who you are, and how have you been able to translate those to the teams that you're leading?
Mm-hmm. My team knows this about me. I love to problem solve, right? I am an engineer. That's it comes out for better or worse. And I love to problem solve in a group. I'm highly collaborative. I'm very curious. And I think that just sort of permeates. One of my favorite things is, and problem solve could be just workshopping anything, right? If there's a dry erase board in the meeting room, I'm the person at the dry, and everybody in the team's like, oh, here she goes. But I'm the person at the dry erase board. And partly it's I'm writing it down because then I can internalize it, right? It's how I learn. It's how I understand. Mm-hmm. And then it can help, it helps people move through. Okay, now what? Now what? Asking those questions really from a place of curiosity, right? It's not. I'm sure sometimes it seems judgmental, or it could be, but it's not ever meant to be.
Yeah.
And so that's one thing. Just really the importance of collaboration. We have the really fortunate advantage of being all co-located, the team, the core team. Wow. So we all sit in Corvallis together. And, COVID, of course, disrupted everything. Mm-hmm. We all know that. But we are working really hard to try to instill, people coming back and being together in the office. I mean, I love the flexibility of a hybrid schedule. That is what we have. But we're much more efficient when we can just have quick one-off conversations. We don't have to schedule a meeting or send an email or try to find an open time. It's just we're in the aisle. I'm like, oh, so-and-so. Walk 4 cubes away.
Yeah.
Hey, what do you think about this? And so that's something that we're working on again. As we're still coming out of COVID, basically, and the company is very much on a hybrid work schedule.
Yeah.
So yeah,
that's it's a rousing endorsement for in person. I mean, which makes sense for engineering, because I think there is that kind of collective brain power that happens.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Right. Yeah.
But your team and your group supports global. I mean, we came in here, and you're leaving on a trip shortly, and again, taking this culture and this culture of curiosity. You've mentioned curiosity many times. Looking at partners and looking at teams globally, what are some of the lessons learned that you can share?
Oh, yeah, and of course we have partners and customers globally. We have internal collaborators, mostly on the West Coast, mostly. We do have internal manufacturing partners that are global. It's harder, right? It's harder than working everybody together in one place. And so some different skills. I guess when we have close collaborators down in Palo Alto, at HP's headquarters in HP labs, basically. And when we started working more closely with them, we made a lot of concerted effort to really bring them into the team, right? And so they come to all of our meetings if they want to, right? So they're invited to team meetings. We're sharing priorities so everybody has the same understanding of what are the overall business objectives, what are the priorities, trying to create inside HP, they're calling it like one team, right? Mm-hmm. Create this feeling of one team, even though we might not be all in the same aisle in Corvallis. So yeah, I think that's part of it.
Well, and then to follow up on that, then what qualities are you looking for when you add to your team? How do you successfully grow your teams?
Yeah, it's so one of of course, hiring engineers, I mean, they have to have the right technical background, skills, and all that. Yeah. And then beyond that, or in addition to that, I guess diversity is really important to me. I said my team is diverse. It's something I've worked on. So all kinds of diversity, right? I think we're more powerful together when we have different, life background and experiences. I also want people who work for me to be curious, right? We have customers doing something that we aren't experts in. We didn't grow up like with a printer. Like everybody we all understand what's the printer supposed to do. We don't understand what our customer researchers are trying to do. And so, having some curiosity to learn about that, and then being flexible. We're a new business. We're a startup business inside a big company. It is a different culture. It requires a different mindset than working in kind of the core part of HP. And that's especially true for the leaders on the team, to be adaptable and be able to thrive in ambiguity, because there can be a lot of ambiguity.
Yeah. And do you find yourself recruiting other HP employees to bring to your team, or do you do outside and bring in different perspectives?
We've grown both ways.
Okay.
Yeah, depends on the role. On the team, we've got a good number of engineers on the team engineers of different disciplines have come from other roles inside HP. We've made several intern conversions, which is super great to be able to do. It's a good trial run for everybody. They learn more about, do I really want to go work there? And then of course we learn more about working with them. And then we've done targeted hiring for roles that the skills just don't exist inside HP. So I have several PhD scientists that work for me that are the translators. So, their role on the team is to work more closely with customers and understand their needs and bring that back into the R&D team so that the R&D team can be developing the right product solutions to address customer needs.
Yeah, I love that multifaceted approach because it's not one fits all, right?
Right.
And then as we talk about the culture is so important to keep growing and you have to balance that with the bigger culture of HP.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So looking back with a, again, huge company, innovative company, looking back, what advice would you either give your 20-year-old self or that intern?
Oh, yeah. For myself, it's a little bit like be patient. It's not my strongest strength. It's gotten better through parenthood, which is probably true for most of us. Be patient with yourself and be patient with other people, right? There've been times in my career when I've been too quick to, kind of rush to judgment. And so, taking a step back from that. I don't do it too often anymore, every once in a while still. And for the intern, it's I guess this might not be a popular sort of bit of advice. I haven't moved around in HP because I had a plan. I mean, there's a lot of executive leaders in HP who they had a plan. And every move was very calculated, up, lateral, getting a different experience. That hasn't been my career. I've taken advantage of opportunities when they came. I applied for that fellowship and I went, right? And I moved my family across the country. I was doing the new business work because I could then. It was an opportunity for me. And so I think that's another really valid way to have a good, fulfilling career, right? Taking advantage of opportunities and doing things that you enjoy, and maybe not taking that rotation that you're like, well, I'll go get through that one for the next 2 years so I can do the next thing that I want to do. So,
I love that.
I do too. Follow your bliss.
Yeah,
in a practical sense.
Yes.
I guess, I mean, it's a beautiful sentiment to communicate.
Yeah.
I think it's also kind of reinforces the idea like if you do what you love and do your best, things work out well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
that's right.
That's really nice.
Good.
So the last question we always ask our guests on the podcast is, what does hiring for good mean to you?
Yeah, it's so what I was reflecting on that, of course. And maybe it's going to sound a little bit like the answer to my last question. And it's because it's mostly about having fun at work.
Yeah.
Right? Having an engaged team, being engaged, having an engaged team that's doing great stuff. We have the good fortune to be developing products that I think are adding a lot of value in the world. And so that feels good. And then being able to work with people that you enjoy being with, that are good team members. We all remember those, teams we got assigned to in college, and there's like the person who doesn't show up and then the person who does all the work instead, We all want to work on teams where everybody's, pitching in and doing 110%, because it's just so much more fun that way. So there's that aspect. of it. And then it's also just developing people, right? And so it's, developing people into the employees and maybe leaders that they want to be. So
yeah, we talk about those concentric circles.
Yeah.
It's the person, their family, the community, and really the world.
Yep.
And if you get that right with that one person, it's amazing how it builds outward.
Yes.
And it sounds like you and your team in HP are doing that.
Yeah.
So
I think so.
that is wonderful. I can't thank you enough.
Yeah, what a
Absolutely.
pleasure. Thank you. I knew this would be a fun conversation. Well, thanks for joining us today, Christie. We are proud to be sharing this. Thank you.
And if you like this podcast, again, like, subscribe, but follow Christie. This is, I think HP is turning a page. Yeah. And this is going to be really exciting to watch how this is going to change that organization.
Yeah. Fantastic.
We'll put your bio in the show notes.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for joining us today at Hiring for Good. If you were inspired by our conversation, don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
And if you want to learn more about our executive search services, check us out at www.hiringforgood.net or our company website, Acumen Executive Search.
Thanks so much, and don't forget to join us next time for another in-depth conversation about transformational leadership. Until then, have fun.